Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt, and happy Thanksgiving to all. Obviously, this episode will be coming out a day before Thanksgiving, and with that, it means that the NFL's technical national holiday has arrived on our doorstep. And as we have arrived to week 12, I believe that's what we're going into. No, we're going into week 13. Oof, Jesus. Time flies. But before we jump into a lot of the action and a lot of the gripes I had from last week, if y'all could leave a like and subscribe down below before we get started, that would be much appreciated. Your support, especially around the holiday times, will not go unnoticed, and it never does anyway, but still. Thank you guys in advance. All right, so let's just jump right into it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. All right, because it's only fair at this point. The Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Dallas Cowboys 24-21 after going out on a 21-0 lead in the first half. Oh, sorry, it wasn't 21-0. It was 21-7 lead in the first half. What's hard about this to analyze, for me, is there's not one thing that went wrong, there's multiple. Let's start off with the obvious, the offense. Jalen Hurts, looking at the raw stats here, he went 27-39, 289 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. All right, on the ground, he was their lead rusher. He had 7 carries for 33 yards and 2 touchdowns. Saquon had 10 carries for 22 yards and 0 touchdowns on the day. Receiving-wise, A.J. Brown, he better not bitch and moan this week, because I swear to God, he had 8 receptions on like 10 targets, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown on the day. And when they were targeting A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, the offense looked like it was working. Devontae Smith, as like we already mentioned him, he had 6 receptions for 89 yards. Saquon had 7 receptions for 52 yards. Dallas Goedert had 2 receptions for 20 yards. And that's really anybody else I'm going to note from this passing offense. Defensive-wise, I have a lot more to talk about with them, but they were able to intercept Dak once. They were able to force a fumble as well, which really, the Eagles, I think they were tied with the turnover battle. If not, they won the turnover battle by 1. So to me, it's weird that the defense wasn't able to clamp down. But we'll get into that in a second here. Looking over at the Cowboys' raw stats, Dak Prescott went 23 of 36, 354 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception on the day. Rushing-wise, Javonte Williams led the way with 20 carries for 87 yards. Dak Prescott also had 5 carries for 9 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. And receiving-wise, George Pickens had himself another monster week. He had 9 receptions for 146 yards and 1 touchdown on the day. CeeDee Lamb, 4 receptions for 75 yards. Jake Ferguson, 5 receptions for 60 yards. KaVontae Turpin had 1 reception for 48 yards. And Javonte Williams had 2 receptions for 14 yards. Defensive-wise, they weren't really able to apply pressure to the quarterback. We'll get back to that in a second. But overall, they were able to force a fumble on special teams to set them up within like the 5-yard line of the Eagles. So that led to a touchdown as well. But let's just get into it. All right. So for the Eagles, this should wake them up. If this doesn't wake them up, they're not winning the Super Bowl this year. I can tell you that already. All right. I'm getting the feeling that they're not going to at this point, and I hope they prove me wrong. But as of right now, the feeling just isn't there. The same feeling that was there at the end of last season, where we saw this team starting to heat up and they start to lock down top-tier teams across the NFL. Now they're struggling to beat middling teams like the Dallas Cowboys. Hurts, I want to put blame on Hurts. But part of me is telling me right now that this offense has gone too conservative at some points. Especially if Kevin Tula believes that they're up. He plays way too safe with Jalen throwing the ball and running the ball as well. So ultimately, I feel like Hurts could do more. Yes, this is definitely on Hurts. He needs to be the captain of the team. He needs to be the leader. He needs to find a way to elevate his team. But overall, it's the same thing that we say every week. It's the offensive play calling. And now it's a bigger problem. It's a lack of change in between the halves to help change up the Eagles' looks. All right? They're consistently, yes, they can get a good route combination to start out the game now. They just can't do it to finish the game. And where the game is won is in the fourth quarter. Every single time. If you look at, I want to say around 60% of the games in the NFL right now, most of the games are won in the fourth quarter. If you cannot change the look of the offensive line, the look of how the wide receivers are lining up, adding more motion, and so on and so forth, then the defense is just going to be able to sit back and read the quarterback. If he looks like he's going to hang it off or hand it off, they're just going to come right up the middle. The linebackers are going to blitz in, and yes, they might be able to use that to get like A.J. Brown open on a slant. But at the same time, if we become too predictable, then we're never going to be able to get out of this funk that we're in. Now, there's another player I want to touch on. Last week, I haven't really touched on like the A.J. Brown stuff, and I'm not going to moving forward either, because I think it's a bunch of BS moving forward. And ultimately, if he's that upset with the team, then he needed to talk with the team sooner. All right? You're supposed to be a team captain here. You're not supposed to go on social media and bitch and moan. I'll leave it at that. But the problem to me is the lack of production from Saquon. And there's technically three reasons that this is happening. One, Saquon, especially because he's been struggling, is not putting faith in his own ability. He's second-guessing himself, which is burning time that he has to fit through the holes that are opening. And ultimately, if he's not the same player that he was last year, this offense isn't going to be as successful running the ball. I believe Barkley is still a top-tier running back in the league, but right now he's not proving it. That's the major problem. And yes, maybe we could get him less eyes on Saquon if we use Jalen Hurts' legs, which they are doing a little bit more now. Bit by bit, Jalen Hurts is running the ball more out of a design run for the quarterback. So if we can continue to see looks like that moving forward, maybe that does pull a linebacker off of Barkley so he doesn't have to worry about that. Maybe that opens up a running lane for Barkley to go right up the middle, because he has seen very little success going off the edge this season. It's whenever he gets a big run, it's normally a pull of the either the guard or the tackle from one side of the line over to the other side of the line to open up a lane for Saquon. And ultimately, that gets me into my next point. The offensive line blocking, especially in the running game, has been its worst that I've seen in years. And that is fairly concerning, because if we're late in the game and we're up, we can't run the ball efficiently. We have to pass, and we're already struggling at that. The offensive line and the tight ends are a major factor in why we have to stick to a lot of our game plan. Offensive line is not blocking because they don't have the same chemistry. They lack cohesion. If it's not Cam Jurgens going down, it's Lane Johnson going down. If not Lane Johnson, then it's Landon Dickerson. All right, so we've lacked this cohesion between our offensive linemen to where they feel comfortable in their ability and can trust in one another to do their job. And with tight ends like Grant Calcaterra being one of the worst blocking tight ends in the entire league, but that being his main job right now. That's a major concern moving forward. So it's not completely on Barkley. It hurts not being able to use his legs because Kevin Patula isn't designing the offense like that. It's the blocking on the offensive line and their tight ends, which are not opening up their running lane. But at the same time, Barkley needs to believe in himself even more. All right? Even if it's not there, push forward. All right? You're a big body. You can squat, over 300 pounds? All right? You should be pushing forward for that extra yardage. Yes, I know he's probably concerned of fumbling. He fumbled during this game, I want to say. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. So, yes, there is that kind of concern moving forward of what he's going to be able to do. But at the same time, you have to put every game behind you and you have to keep moving forward. Obviously, if you're not in the loop, the in-season Hard Knocks is coming to the NFC East, which means that we'll get a better look at what's going on with the Eagles as well from behind closed doors. So we're just going to have to wait and see for that. But to me, the biggest culprit of why we lost is this defense. All right? There's a lot of shitty calls in this game, both ways, without a doubt. Did I complain when it helped the Eagles? No. Did I bitch when it was helping the Cowboys? Absolutely. But our guys did not play up to snuff. Yes, we had one interception. Okay. I mean, we didn't even get a touchdown off of that. We just stopped a Dallas touchdown. Cooper DeJean kept getting burned by George Pickens because Quinyon Mitchell did his job. He held CeeDee Lamb, who's supposedly a top, 5 receiver in the league, to under 57 or under 60 yards. All right. So ultimately, Quinyon Mitchell went out there and did his job, but he can't be the only one doing his job. Zach Bond, so close to an interception twice, he has to get better at reading which direction that the ball is going to be released. Nakobe Dean had a pretty great day. I can't really complain about the energy that he's bringing to the field. Jalen Phillips, very quiet. Nolan Smith, very quiet. Jalen Carter, too quiet. Jordan Davis, too quiet. And now injuries are starting to play a factor. Reed Blankenship, I feel like he's going to be fine. And I'm assuming that as of right now, according to reports, especially coming from Vic Fangio, they're expecting him to play for the Black Friday game. And so that's fine. But now we have a problem at corner. Because they put Keely Ringo in late, and he got burned several times by George Pickens, and he's just not a coverage guy. He should be a blitzing corner or a run-stopping corner. He should not be a guy that we bring in on our pass coverage. And so I question, why didn't we play Michael Carter II more? Why didn't we play Ja'Cory Bennett more? There are so many things that boggle my mind during this game, especially on defense, especially coming off of the last two performances that we had against two top-tier teams in the NFC, to now have to deal with this loss. And now with this loss and the Rams win, we are now the second seed in the NFC. So we're going to have to hope that the Rams lose to somebody moving forward. And I'm not sure that's possible. I have the Lions, who they might lose to, the Seahawks. But besides that, over the next 6 games, I'm not sure who the Rams would lose to, if anybody. And so it kind of just brings up the question, did the Eagles kind of sell their one chance? Because they have to at least hope the Rams lose one more game and they have to win out to get the number 1 seed. And that's very important. It gives you that extra week. It allows Lane Johnson to heal. And so, yes, he's expected back in within a month, but he's still dealing with a Liz Frank injury. So we can't really rely on this older right tackle without some off time. So, yeah, moving forward, the Eagles are very concerning to me. Brian Daboll, I think there's reports of this. Let me check this out. There was recent rumors that he was meeting with the Eagles to consult on offense. I mean, I know like Twitter isn't the most reliable thing, but an NFL insider, Richard Johnson, said that the Eagles had conversations with Brian Daboll about offensive strategies as they gear up for the playoff run. So, yeah, they need to keep their foot on the pedal here. There's no looking back. Forget about what happened yesterday. Keep moving forward. That's my message for the Eagles. Alright, so normally I would do probably my quick notes, but at the end of the day, I don't really have anything. Like, no news besides Joe Burrow starting on Thanksgiving has really happened. So I'm going to briefly go over my top 5 teams. At number 5, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they lost to Dallas. Yes, they are around 500 at 5-5-1, but still, the divisional games still give Eagles troubles. So, moving forward, I don't think they've won a division game on the road either this season, because they lost to the Giants in New York. Now they lost to the Cowboys in Dallas. So, yeah. Eagles at 5, I still feel like they have the potential of being a top 3 team moving into the playoffs, but as of right now, they're going to sit at number 5. Number 4, I have the Chiefs. I just feel like the Chiefs are just going to lurk, get in the 7th seed, and then just go on a run. They just beat the Colts, who to me are still above the Chiefs, and I still believe the Colts are a good team. So, although the Colts now have to play for the division, especially with the Texans playing a lot better late in the season. So we're going to have to wait and see how things shake out. But still, I have the Chiefs at 4 because of just their dynamic play and how they were able to prove themselves against a pretty good team. And at number 3, I have the Colts. And we kind of just touched on them, so I'm not going to go back over them. At number 2, I have the Patriots. I don't believe the Patriots played this week, if you want me to be honest. And so it wasn't their play this week, but it was the fact that their grip on the AFC East became a lot stronger, especially with the Bills' loss to the Texans. And so the Patriots are going to be sitting pretty and possibly now have a new dynastic run loading moving forward. And at number 1, I have the Rams. They dominated another top-tier NFC team on prime time, that being the Buccaneers, who are such an interesting team to me at this point. So at number 1, I have the Rams. Going back over it, at 5, we have the Birds. 4, we have the Chiefs. 3, we have the Colts. 2, we have the Patriots. And 1, we have the Rams. Alright, so let's hop into some of these weekend games here. Or this past weekend, excuse me. I lied. We're going to go to Thursday night first, which technically isn't the weekend, but for me it's the weekend, so whatever. The Houston Texans beat the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football 23-19. Davis Mills again started at the quarterback position for the Texans with C.J. Stroud out with a concussion. Davis Mills went 16 of 30, 153 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. On the ground, their lead rusher was Jaquavius Marks with 16 carries for 74 yards. Receiving, Nico Collins was their lead receiver with 3 receptions for 55 yards. Christian Kirk had 5 receptions for 54 yards and 1 touchdown, so he was better for fantasy managers right there. Jaden Higgins had 4 receptions for 38 yards and 1 touchdown, and that's anybody of note. Defensive-wise, they were able to pick off Josh Allen twice. They forced 1 fumble as well. So, yeah. And they were able to sack the quarterback quite a few times, like 6 times. So, ultimately, they just put Josh Allen flat on his back almost the entire night. Speaking of Josh Allen, he went 24 of 34, 253 yards, and 2 interceptions through the air. On the ground, their lead rusher was James Cook. He had himself a night, actually. He had 17 carries for 116 yards and 1 touchdown. Josh Allen had 5 carries for 20 yards himself. Receiving, Khalil Shakir had 8 receptions for 110 yards. Ty Johnson had 3 receptions for 45 yards. Jackson Halls had 2 receptions for 26 yards. Gabe Davis, 1 reception for 22 yards. Josh Palmer, 2 receptions for 21 yards. And James Cook, 3 receptions for 13 yards. And defensive-wise, they did not sack Davis Mills even once. They didn't force any turnovers, and so they just didn't put their offense in a good position. Overall, this was a massive failure for the Bills, especially on prime time. They needed an offensive line. What they got was Swiss cheese. All right. Josh Allen was constantly under pressure and in duress the entire night, and the Texans did not let off the gas even so. So, at the end of the day, it was an amazing win by the Texans, in my opinion, and the Bills need to right the ship and fast, especially if they want to get their division back. All right. Next up, we have Colts Chiefs. The Cincinnati. Whoa. Back it up a sec. The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Indianapolis Colts 23-20. Patrick Mahomes didn't have that amazing of a day when it came to in the red zone, but overall he went 29-46, 352 yards, and 1 interception on the day. On the ground, Kareem Hunt had himself a day. He had 30 carries for 104 yards and 1 touchdown. Receiving-wise, Rashid Rice was their lead receiver with 8 receptions for 141 yards. Xavier Worthy had 4 receptions for 59 yards. Travis Kelce had 4 receptions for 43 yards. Rashard Smith had 3 receptions for 31 yards. Kareem Hunt had 3 receptions for 26 yards. And Noah Gray had 3 receptions for 25 yards. So that's anybody really of note there. And defensive-wise, they were just able to apply enough pressure to hold this kind of powerful offense that the Colts have and hold Jonathan Taylor under 60 yards as well. All right, moving over to this Colts offense here, Danny Dimes or Daniel Jones or Indiana Jones, whoever you want to call him. He went 19 of 31, 181 yards, and 2 touchdowns through the air. On the ground, he also had 3 carries for 16 yards. Also on the ground, Jonathan Taylor was the lead rusher. He had 16 carries for 58 yards. Receiving-wise, I've never heard of this guy before. Ashton Dulin had 1 reception for 48 yards and 1 touchdown. Jesus. Sorry, the app that I use for all the stats got an update, and now it looks way different, so bear with me. That's probably going to happen a couple times here. Let's go back to Ashton Dulin. He had 1 reception for 48 yards. Tyler Warren had 5 receptions for 45 yards. Michael Pittman Jr. had 5 receptions for 27 yards and 1 touchdown. Alec Pierce, 1 reception for 26 yards. And Josh Downs had 2 receptions for 10 yards. It was Andrew Ogletree who also brought in that other receiving touchdown as well. Defensive-wise, they were able to force 1 fumble and pick off Patrick Mahomes once as well, but they just weren't able to use those turnovers as well as you would have hoped. Especially late in the game, they kind of stalled, and eventually the Chiefs were just able to catch back up, force overtime, and kick the field goal to win it. Overall, good win for the Chiefs here, especially coming into a stretch where it's going to be a little bit difficult. Cowboys could be a difficult game. Texans are going to be a difficult game. Chargers going to be a difficult game. Broncos going to be a difficult game. So they got to stockpile as many wins as they can moving forward. And if they can find their mojo, they might be able to, take this as a springboard and maybe even get into a high wild card spot. But it's going to be a challenge, definitely. And the Colts, ultimately, they were so lackluster during this game. It is slightly concerning that they rely on Jonathan Taylor to win them games instead of Daniel Jones, but yeah, they're still in the battle for the AFC South, so we're going to see how that all plays out, especially with the Texans finding a surge late in the season here. All right, let's blitz over this game because this one seems very uninteresting. Seahawks, Titans. Seahawks beat the Titans 30-24. Sam Darnold, he went 16-26, 244 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Rushing-wise, Kenneth Walker was their lead rusher. He had 11 carries for 71 yards. Zach Charbonnet had 6 carries for 35 yards and 1 touchdown, and that's anybody of note in the rushing department. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jesus Christ. Jackson Smith and Jigba had 8 receptions for 167 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Kenneth Walker had 3 receptions for 30 yards. Cooper Kupp had 2 receptions for 24 yards. A.J. Barner had 2 receptions for 18 yards. And, yeah. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback, it looks like, 3 times. So they were able to get after Cam Ward a little bit, but just probably not as much as you would hope out of a team like the Seahawks here. Cam Ward, he went 28 of 42, 256 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. He also was their lead rusher, which is a common theme now, which is very concerning. He had 6 carries for 37 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. Tony Pollard, he had 11 carries for 20 yards. He was right behind Cam Ward. Receiving, their lead receiver was Gunnar Helm. He had 6 receptions for 51 yards. Chimere Dyke had 5 receptions for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. James Proche II had 3 receptions for 42 yards. And Chisholm Okonkwo had 3 receptions for 40 yards. Xavier Restrepo had 2 receptions for 26 yards. And that's really... Tajay Spears had 4 receptions for 21 yards. That's anybody else of note, realistically, on that list there. And defensive-wise, they got 1 sack on Sam Darnold. And they weren't able to force any turnovers, which would have helped greatly in this surprisingly tight game. So, yeah, I don't really have any notes because I'm not going to go back and watch this game. And I didn't care when it happened either. So, there you go. The Packers beat the Vikings 23-6. Jordan Love, he went 14-21, 139 yards on the day through the air. And Malik Willis went 1 for 1 for 7 yards. Their lead rusher was Emmanuel Wilson with... he went 28 carries for 107 yards with 2 touchdowns. This is with Josh Jacobs being out. It's nice that they have a backup running back for the team here in Emmanuel Wilson. Receiving-wise, Christian Watson had 5 receptions for 49 yards. Tavion Wicks had 2 receptions for 32 yards. Romeo Doubs had 2 receptions for 23 yards. Emmanuel Wilson had 2 receptions for 18 yards. Luke Musgrave had 1 reception for 7 yards, and that's really anybody of note there. And defensive-wise, they were able to pick off J.J. McCarthy twice, and they were able to sack the quarterback, looks like 3 or 4 times. So, yeah, ultimately, they were able to apply enough pressure to make the basically rookie quarterback flinch when it mattered most. And speaking of that same quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, he went 12 of 19. 87 yards and 2 interceptions through the air. Rushing-wise, Jordan Mason led the charge. He had 8 carries for 42 yards. Aaron Jones had 9 carries for 41 yards. Receiving-wise, Justin Jefferson had 4 receptions for 48 yards. T.J. Hawkinson had 4 receptions for 19 yards. Aaron Jones had 3 receptions for 16 yards. Josh Oliver had 1 reception for 4 yards, and that's anybody that had a single reception on this entire team. And defensive-wise, they sacked Jordan Love once, but it really wasn't enough to throw him off his game. And ultimately, it was a little bit of a close game early on. It was 10-6 at halftime, but then the Packers kind of just broke it open and took the charge. So, yeah. Overall, good division win for the Packers. Vikings, I am slightly concerned for you guys, and at this point, I'm not sure you guys are going to make the playoffs, especially with J.J. McCarthy at quarterback. So, good luck. That's all I got to say. Good luck. All right, next up, another boring game. We got Ravens beating the New York Jets 23-10. Ravens, Lamar, he went 13-23, 153 yards through the air. Derrick Henry had 21 carries for 64 yards. Zay Flowers had 5 carries for 58 yards. 5 receptions for 58 yards through the air. I don't know how to say that name. Devontae Walker had 1 reception for 30 yards. Derrick Henry had 2 receptions for 24 yards. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 receptions for 13 yards, and Isaiah Likely had 1 reception for 10 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to force 1 fumble and intercept Tyrod Taylor once as well. They were also able to register 3 sacks on top of everything else. Tyrod Taylor, he went 17-28, 222 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception on the day. Breece Hall was their lead rusher. He had 16 carries for 44 yards. Receiving, Breece Hall was also their lead receiver. He had 4 receptions for 75 yards. John Mechie had 6 receptions for 65 yards and 1 touchdown. Adonai Mitchell had 2 receptions for 42 yards. Mason Taylor had 3 receptions for 21 yards. And that's really anybody of note there. And defensive-wise, they were able to sack Lamar once, but they weren't able to force any turnovers to make this a little bit of a closer game here. So, overall, the Ravens were able to find their groove here and win and put up points late because they were trailing at halftime. But then they came out, they exploded. And although it wasn't a great game for either Lamar or Derrick Henry, they were still able to find a win. And now I believe they're tied with the AFC North leader in the Steelers record-wise. So, yeah, good win for the Ravens. Jets, I don't know. You guys are really not playing for anything at this point anyway. This was actually a very interesting game here. We have the Detroit Lions versus the New York Giants. The Lions beat the Giants in overtime, 34-27. Jared Goff, he went 28 of 42, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception through the air. Rushing-wise, holy crap, Jahmyr Gibbs had himself a day. He had 15 carries for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was their lead receiver. He had 9 carries for 149 yards and 1 touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs had 9 receptions. Jahmyr Gibbs had 11 receptions for 45 yards and 1 touchdown. Cliff Raymond had 2 receptions for 37 yards. Brock Wright, 3 receptions for 29 yards. David Montgomery, 3 receptions for 19 yards. And that's anybody that had a single reception on the team. And defensive-wise, they were able to intercept Jameis Winston once. And, yeah, their defense, although they got 1 sack on the day, was very concerning that this Giants offense was able to tear through them as they did. Jameis Winston was the starting quarterback with Jackson Dart still being out with a concussion. Jameis, he went 18 of 36, 366 yards and 2 touchdowns with 1 interception on the day. He also had 1 reception for, it shows you how funny of a character and player Jameis is. He also had 1 reception for 33 yards and a touchdown. And that's receiving. Rushing-wise, getting back to our regular scheduled program, Tyrone Tracy had the majority of the snaps. He had 20 carries for 62 yards. Devin Singletary had 14 carries for 47 yards as well. Receiving, Wan'Dale Robinson led the charge here. He had 9 receptions for 156 yards and 1 touchdown. Theo Johnson had 3 receptions for 77 yards. Tyrone Tracy had 3 receptions for 68 yards. Isaiah Hodgins had 2 receptions for 42 yards and a touchdown. And obviously, I already told you, Jameis Winston had 1 reception for 33 yards and 1 touchdown. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept Jared Goff once, and they were able to sack him 3 times, able to put a little bit of pressure, but they focused too much on the pass and let Jahmyr Gibbs run basically all over them. So, Giants, it's a promising look for you guys moving forward. This was a fun game to watch because I actually did watch this game. And Lions, this win is, again, slightly concerning moving forward, but we're just going to have to see how you guys play it out. Steelers, Bears. The Chicago beat Pittsburgh 31-28. Caleb Williams, he went 19-35, 239 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the day. On the ground, Kyle Monangai had 12 carries for 48 yards and 1 touchdown. Caleb Williams had 4 carries for 21 yards as well. Receiving, DJ Moore, he had 5 receptions for 64 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rome Odunze had 3 receptions for 53 yards. Colston Loveland had 4 receptions for 49 yards and 1 touchdown. Luther Burton had 3 receptions for 46 yards, and DeAndre Swift had 1 reception for 14 yards. Defense, they were able to force a fumble and intercept the quarterback as well, and they were able to put a little bit of pressure, only registering 2 sacks, which really didn't slow down this Pittsburgh offense that much. Speaking of that same offense, we have their quarterback, Mason Rudolph, who was filling in for the injured Aaron Rodgers. He went 24-31, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception on the day. Kenneth Gainwell, he had 10 carries for 92 yards. He was their leading rusher. But Jaylen Warren had 18 carries for 64 yards and 1 touchdown. Hell, even DK Metcalf had 2 carries for 12 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. Through the air, their lead receiver was Calvin Austin. He had 4 receptions for 36 yards. Kenneth Gainwell had 6 carries for... Kenneth Gainwell had 6 receptions for 30 yards. DK Metcalf had 5 receptions for 22 yards. Darnell Washington had 2 receptions for 22 yards. And the man with the solo receiving touchdown today was Pat Freiermuth. He had 3 receptions for 19 yards and 1 touchdown. And defense-wise, they were able to force 2 fumbles, but they weren't able to sack the quarterback as much as one would hope and throw Caleb Williams off his game. So overall, good game by the Bears. They actually proved that they could be a team with a winning record. Steelers, you guys have to hold on until Aaron Rodgers gets back, and even then, I'm still concerned for you guys because this defense isn't playing up to snuff. And moving forward, you guys have the Bills and the Ravens the next 2 weeks. So, time to get everything together, get the troops together, and figure out a game plan moving forward. Patriots, Bengals. I'm assuming that this was a good game. I haven't really done research on this game. The Patriots beat the Bengals 26-20. Joe Flacco, let's start off with the winning team. Drake May, he went 22-35, 294 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception on the day. Rushing, Trevion Henderson had 18 carries for 66 yards. Drake May had 5 carries for 22 yards. So there you go. Receiving, Hunter Henry led the charge here. He had 7 receptions for 115 yards and 1 touchdown. Austin Hooper, he had 3 receptions for 39 yards. Demario Douglas had 1 reception for 37 yards. Mac Hollins had 2 receptions for 30 yards. Stephon Diggs had 2 receptions for 20 yards, and Kyle Williams had 1 reception for 18 yards. Defense, they were able to intercept Joe Flacco once, but they weren't able to sack him too many times, only getting 1 sack off of the pressure that they were sending after the older quarterback. Speaking of that same quarterback, Joe Flacco, he went 19-37, 183 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Chase Brown, he had 19 carries for 107 yards. He was their lead rusher for the day. Receiving, their lead receiver was Andre Iosivas. He had 4 receptions for 61 yards. Mike Gesicki had 4 receptions for 35 yards. T. Higgins had 5 receptions for 31 yards. Mitchell Tinsley had 2 receptions for 29 yards and 1 touchdown. And Chase Brown had 2 receptions for 23 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the quarterback once, and they were able to sack the quarterback once as well. Ultimately, not getting as much pressure as they would have hoped to slow down Drake May and this Patriots offense. So looking at the big picture here, Patriots now sitting at 10-2. This is a good win. Moving forward, they are ultimately going to find a way to win and probably win their division as well. Maybe even the AFC as a whole. I mean, they're number 2 in my rankings right now. And that's only because they played a weaker team and let up so many points compared to the Rams. So, yeah, Patriots, overall, it's a good job. This might have been one of Joe Flacco's last starts in the NFL. I know he already said that he wants to start somewhere else in 2026, but that's really not his decision at this point. We're going to have to wait and see where the legend of Joe Flacco ends up, but as of right now, the Bengals are going to ride with Joe Burrow moving forward. All right. I'm skipping this. Okay, this game's kind of important because it is the first start of Shedeur Sanders' career, so we'll touch on it a little bit more in depth, I guess. And the Browns beat the Raiders 24-10 during this game. Shedeur Sanders, he went 11 for 20, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Their lead rusher was Quinshon Judkins. He had 16 carries for 47 yards. And 2 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns on the day. Dylan Sampson had 7 carries for 23 yards, but it really doesn't mean that much. Speaking of Dylan Sampson, he did more damage in the receiving game than anything. He had 2 receptions for 59 yards and 1 touchdown. Isaiah Bond had 2 receptions for 58 yards. Harold Fanning Jr. had 4 receptions for 40 yards, and Jerry Jeudy had 1 reception for 39 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback. Oh, boy. Oh, Jesus. How many is that? That's 1, 2, 3.5, 4, 5, 6, 9 times. Holy crap. 3 of those sacks coming from Myles Garrett, who's on pace to break the single season sack record this year. But holy crap, sacked 9 times, and 2, I want to say it's forced fumble, but I'm not sure. The stat's a little bit weird on my side. But, yeah, as of right now, 9 whole sacks from this defensive line, which is insane. Geno Smith, it's 10. I did my math wrong. It's 10, according to the quarterback sack page for Geno Smith here. Speaking of him, he went 30 of 44, 285 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. Ashton Jeanty had 17 carries for 50 yards on the ground. Receiving, Tyler Lockett was their lead receiver. He had 4 receptions for 62 yards. Ashton Jeanty had 8 receptions for 58 yards. Brock Bowers had 6 receptions for 55 yards. Ian Thomas had 4 receptions for 34 yards. Trey Tucker had 3 receptions for 28 yards, and that's anybody of note there. Let me go back. Ashton Jeanty also had 1 receiving touchdown as well. And defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the rookie Shedeur Sanders once, but it really wasn't enough to put them in a striking range of tying this game up. So, yeah, it really didn't help their case too much. Overall, Browns' defense is scary as hell for opposing quarterbacks. And Shedeur Sanders balled out against a pretty weak Raiders team. So, good job, Shedeur, I guess. I don't really like you anyway, but still, I don't think that you're that great of a quarterback. But a win's a win, so I can't really hate on you that way. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus Arizona Cardinals. Jacksonville beat Arizona 27-24. Trevor Lawrence, he went 18 of 30, 256 yards, and 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions on the day. Jesus Christ. Travis Etienne, he had 15 carries for 86 yards on the ground. He was their lead rusher. Trevor Lawrence also had 5 carries for 29 yards on the ground himself as well. Receiving wise, their lead receiver was Brendan Strange. He had 5 receptions for 93 yards. Parker Washington had 5 receptions for 71 yards and 1 touchdown. Jacoby Myers, he had 4 receptions for 50 yards and 1 touchdown. Travis Etienne had 3 receptions for 30 yards and 1 touchdown. And John Mund had 1 reception for 12 yards. And that's it in the receiving game there. Defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback, it seems like 6 times here. So they were able to get after Jacoby Brissett a multitude of times. And they weren't able to force any turnovers, though, so it did not keep the Cardinals at bay for too long. Over to Jacoby Brissett, he had 33 attempts, or 33 completions off of 49 attempts for 317 yards and 1 touchdown through the air. Rushing-wise, their lead rusher was Michael Carter, who had 5 carries for 28 yards. And Jacoby Brissett had 3 carries for 20 yards himself. Oh, and let's go down to Zonovan Knight, who had 10 carries for 12 yards and 1 touchdown on the day. There you go. Their lead receiver was Michael Wilson, who had 10 receptions for 118 yards. Trey McBride had 9 receptions for 79 yards. Greg Dortz had 6 receptions for 53 yards and 1 touchdown. Michael Carter had 3 receptions for 30 yards. And Zonovan Knight had 4 receptions for 20 yards. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept Trevor Lawrence 3 times, as we had discussed earlier. They also forced 1 fumble as well. They were able to sack Trevor, it looks like 3 times, so not as many as they probably would have hoped to get after the quarterback, but they were able to turn the ball over, which kept it a close game for the Cardinals here. Overall, Cardinals, you guys don't really have anything to play for at 3-8 at this point in the season, maybe for pride. Jacksonville, you guys have an assortment of games coming up. Titans, that can be a win. Colts, if you guys can win, maybe you get you guys back into the divisional conversation. Jets, that could be an easy game. Colts again, Titans, and Broncos as well. Not in that order, but just in the general vicinity of each other. So I see a couple wins coming up here in the future for the Jaguars. We just got to see how Trevor Lawrence plays moving forward. And the Atlanta Falcons beat the New Orleans Saints 24-10. Kirk Cousins, who is now starting for the rest of the season because Michael Penix is out with a season-ending knee injury. Kirk Cousins went 16-23, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. On the ground, Bijan Robinson, he had 14 carries for 70 yards. Tyler Algier had 12 carries for 44 yards as well. There you go. Neither of them rushed for a touchdown during this game. Over to the receiving core here. Darnell Mooney, he was the lead receiver. He had 3 receptions for 74 yards and 1 touchdown. Bijan Robinson had 2 receptions for 35 or 37 yards. Kyle Pitts had 2 receptions for 25 yards. Charlie Warner had 3 receptions for 24 yards. Dylan Drummond had 3 receptions for 18 yards. And Davis Sills had 2 receptions for 16 yards and 1 touchdown on the day. Defensive-wise, they were able to intercept the rookie quarterback once, and they were able to sack him, it looks like, roughly around 5 times. So they're able to get after the quarterback a little bit here. Moving over to the Saints, Tyler Shuck, he went 30-43, 243 yards through the air, and 1 interception, as we just mentioned. He was also their lead rusher, which is slightly concerning. He had 7 carries for 22 yards. Devin Neal had 7 carries for 18 yards. Taysom Hill had 10 carries for 17 yards, and that's anybody. And Alvin Kamara had 3 carries for 11 yards. Chris Olave, he had 9 receptions for 70 yards. Juwan Johnson had 6 receptions for 46 yards. Devin Neal had 5 receptions for 43 yards. Devon Vale had 3 receptions for 37 yards. And Mason Tipton had 3 receptions for 22 yards. That's really anybody I'm going to note, because after this, you thought that was no names after Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson. It's really no names after that. And defensive-wise, they were able to sack the quarterback, it looks like a total of 3 times, and forcing 1 interception as well to try to keep themselves in it. But ultimately, it just wasn't enough to beat this more powerful Falcons team. And, yeah, good win for the Falcons. They're not going to win their division. Maybe they can sneak into a wild card spot, but that's a long shot at this point. Saints, I don't know. You guys are just tanking for a top pick. Maybe get some offensive line. Maybe get some defensive help. Young stars on cheap contracts. That's really what's going to help you guys moving forward. But, yeah, Falcons beat the Saints 24-10. Another one of their NFC South compatriots lost on Sunday night against the Rams, that being the Rams beating the Buccaneers 34-7, and it wasn't really close. Matthew Stafford, he went 25 of 35, 273 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day, and that's through the air. On the ground, Kyron Williams had 12 carries for 46 yards. Blake Corum had 7 carries for 24 yards. Receiving, their lead receiver was Puka Nacua. He had 7 receptions for 97 yards. Devontae Adams had 5 receptions for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns. Colby Parkinson had 4 receptions for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. Davis Allen had 3 receptions for 29 yards. Katana Munfield had 2 receptions for 25 yards. And Jordan Whittington had 3 receptions for 17 yards. So Matthew Stafford was really wheeling and dealing it to all his receivers during this game. And the defense was able to get 2 interceptions. And they were ultimately able to sack the quarterback a total of 4 times, which is not as much as you would think, but they were able to get a little bit of pressure on whoever was standing back there. Which leads me to kind of the story of this game was Baker Mayfield going down with an AC joint injury in his non-throwing shoulder. And he played the first half, he looked horrible, and he sat out the second half with his backup taking over. So let's hop right into the raw stats here. Baker Mayfield, he went 9 for 19, 41 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions on the day. Teddy Bridgewater came in the second half and played. He went 8 for 15 for 62 yards. Rushing-wise, they really couldn't get anything going, especially with the lack of Bucky Irving. Their lead rusher was Sean Tucker with 12 carries for 42 yards. Rachaad White had 7 carries for 38 yards. And Baker Mayfield had 4 carries for 19 yards. Receiving, Emeka Mbuka had 3 receptions for 32 yards. Cade Otton had 4 receptions for 21 yards. Tez Johnson had 3 receptions for 21 yards and 1 touchdown. Sterling Shepard had 3 receptions for 12 yards. And Chris Godwin, in his first game back, had 2 receptions for 9 yards. And defensive-wise, they were able to sack Matthew Stafford a total of 1 time, not getting too much pressure on the quarterback as they have hoped. And ultimately, this led to a perfect game for Matthew Stafford. Well, as perfect as you could probably ask for. The Rams' offense really kind of became sluggish in the second half. They only scored 3 points in the second half, but lucky for them, the Buccaneers scored no points in the second half. So it really didn't matter at the end of the day. Ultimately, this has a lot of implications when it comes to the playoff picture moving forward for the NFC. Rams now number 1 in the NFC, ahead of the Eagles after their loss. If they lose again and they tie with the Eagles record-wise, then the Eagles are going to get that first seed. So now they have to keep the pedal to the metal. And coming up, they have teams like the Panthers, Cardinals, Lions, Seahawks, Falcons, Cardinals. They might lose one of those games They might lose. I'm going to predict that they're probably going to lose 2 more games, one being against the Lions and one being against the Seahawks. But ultimately, they could win out in theory, if you want my personal opinion right now. And the Buccaneers, now with Baker Mayfield, it's going to be interesting to see a timeline. They are only 1 game ahead of the Panthers, who are sitting at 6-6, and the Bucs are sitting at 6-5. So this is really going to be interesting how this division plays out and who's going to get the division crown moving forward. Because whoever does is going to be just a little bit over 500, and they're probably going to be a first-round exit anyway. But yeah, and Buccaneers are on a 3-game losing streak. And coming up, they have teams like the Cardinals, Saints, Falcons, who they might be able to rebound against, but they end their season with 2 games against the Panthers. So we're going to have to wait and see how the Buccaneers try to bounce back moving forward. And speaking of one of their NFC South, the last compatriot of the NFC South that I can talk about today, the 49ers beat the Panthers 20-9. Brock Purdy did not look great, although they won. He went 23 of 32, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception on the day. Christian McCaffrey had 24 carries for 89 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. And, let's mention him. Brian Robinson Jr. had 7 carries for 40 yards. He had a pretty productive day as RB2. George Kittle was their lead receiver. He had 6 receptions for 78 yards. Christian McCaffrey had 7 receptions for 53 yards. Juwan Jennings had 5 receptions for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. And realistically, that's anybody I'm going to note as of right now. And defensive-wise, they have 2 interceptions on the day, but they were only able to amount 1 sack on Bryce Young during this game. So ultimately, their defense played bend but not break. All right, they were able to bend to the Panthers' will, but eventually they were able to get the stop. So, yeah. Moving over to the Panthers here, Bryce Young, he went 18 for 29, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions on the day. Rushing-wise, Rico Dowell had 6 carries for 38 yards. Chuba Hubbard had 3 carries for 16 yards. And Bryce Young had 4 carries for 15 yards. Rico Dowell had 4 receptions for 36 yards through the air. Territo McMillan had 2 receptions for 35 yards and 1 touchdown. Jalen Coker had 3 receptions for 32 yards. Chuba Hubbard had 4 receptions for 27 yards. Xavier Legette had 3 receptions for 22 yards. And Jimmy Horn Jr. had 1 reception for 11 yards. Defense-wise, they were not able to sack the quarterback a single time, but they were able to intercept Brock Purdy 3 times. 2 of those were by J.C. Horn. So, yeah, they were able to make Brock Purdy look like a fool on prime time. So, overall, a very ugly game by 2 teams looking to... I'm not sure. I think the 49ers are in the NFC playoff picture right now as a 7th seed. But the Panthers looking to get in. It was a very sloppy game out of them. A game that they could have very well have won if they barreled down, ran the ball more, and opened up some play action for Bryce Young here, especially in the second half. Alright, so that's it for this past weekend's games. We're going to briefly jump into this upcoming weekend's games, which are going to be a little bit weird because obviously tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and that's like the national holiday of the game that we love called football. But last week I went 10-4 in my picks. My overall record prediction this season is 118-59. So let's just see how that plays out this weekend. This weekend we have the Packers versus the Lions on Thanksgiving at 1 p.m. I'm going to take the I'm going to take the Lions here. I just feel like, especially after that last win, it kind of energized them a little bit, and I don't really believe in the Packers that much. So give me the Lions beat in a close game, 27-24 over the Packers. Chiefs, Cowboys. Give me the Chiefs. ultimately, I just feel like they're going to find a way to use this momentum. The Cowboys aren't that good of a team, and the Chiefs have a good defense to hold back a powerful offense like the Colts. So give me the Chiefs in kind of a shutout, 23-7. And that game, just so you know, that game's at 4:30. Next up, we have the Thanksgiving night game, that being the Ravens versus the Bengals. I would not be shocked if the Bengals got the upset here, especially with Joe Burrow in his first game back. But since it's his first game back, he's got to knock off a little bit of rust. So give me the Ravens here. They're the proven product as of right now. They're the safer bet if you're going out there and betting on some of these games here. So give me the Ravens in a 24-14 matchup here. It's a very defensive Thanksgiving here coming up. All right, so we have the Eagles on Black Friday at 3 p.m. I'm looking to go to this game. We'll see if I go to this game, because then I won't have as much notes as I would normally do if I sat down and watched the game behind my own TV. So give me the Eagles here. I think they find a way to bounce back, and I think that loss to the Cowboys puts a fucking hot poker up their ass and gets them moving now. So give me the Eagles over the Bears, 31-17. Browns, 49ers. Give me the 49ers, although I feel like the Browns are going to have a sack fest on Brock Purdy and maybe turn him over once or twice. I still feel like the 49ers are going to find a way to win on the back of Christian McCaffrey, who's kind of carrying this entire team as of right now. So give me the 49ers in a close game, 21-20. Jaguars, Titans, give me the Jaguars. I really don't see a world in which the Titans win another game this season, especially with their schedule. So give me the Jaguars beating up on the lowly Titans in a blowout, 38-10. Next up, we have Texans, Colts. As of right now, I'm going to pick the Colts. I do trust the Colts more, and I feel like Shane Steichen can find a way to manipulate this Texans defense, which is something that no team over the past few weeks have been able to do. But give me the Colts here in a tight-knit battle, 28-24 over the Houston Texans. Saints, Dolphins, give me the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins come in here and shred this Saints secondary to pieces, and they ultimately get their 5th win on the season. So give me the Dolphins beating up on the Saints a little bit in a 27-17 matchup. Falcons, Jets. Give me the Falcons. I just feel like right now they're the better proven product with their backup on their center. I don't trust in Tyrod Taylor. He'll get you in the position to win games, but he won't win you games. Kirk Cousins will win you games and will lose you games, but he'll still win you games. So give me the Falcons beating up on the Jets. Well, not beating up. It's still going to be a close game. 28-21. Cardinals, Bucks. I think the Bucks find a way to bounce back and get a win. I know Baker Mayfield. You know what? No, this is going to be our upset of the week here. Give me the Cardinals to beat the Buccaneers. Bucks, Baker Mayfield's injured. Teddy Bridgewater is the one starting under center. And so give me the Cardinals here to find their 4th win of the season against the Bucks on a last-second field goal, 31-28. Rams, Panthers. Sorry, Panthers, you guys are running right into a buzzsaw. It's hard for me to bet against the Rams right now. So give me the Los Angeles Rams over the Panthers. 30-24. Vikings, Seahawks. Give me the Seahawks by a mile. I don't trust in the Vikings, and I don't trust in J.J. McCarthy whatsoever. So give me the Seahawks to get their 9th win on the season here. And kind of a blowout, 42-24. Bills Steelers. Give me the Bills right now. I think they really need this win more than the Steelers are hungry for this win. So give me the Bills ultimately coming into Pittsburgh and beating the Steelers in a close battle. A lot of close battles this week, I feel. It's going to be a one-score game. So let's do 35-31. Chargers, Raiders, give me the Chargers. I don't really see a world in which the Raiders get another win this season. So give me the Chargers here, beating up on their division rival to get their 8th win on the season. This game's not even going to be close. It's going to be 38-10. Yeah, 38-10. Sunday Night Football, we have Broncos Commanders. I don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to be starting anytime soon. I still haven't heard anything. Alright, so he's a long shot to return Sunday, so I highly doubt that he's going to play. So give me the Broncos here. They get another free win. They're able to lock down Marcus Mariota and this Commanders offense pretty badly. But their defense does stand up a little bit, that being the Commanders. So give me the Broncos over the Commanders 24-6 on Sunday Night Football. And lastly, we got a really fun game. We have the New York Giants versus the New England Patriots on Monday Night Football. Give me the Patriots, obviously, but I think that it's going to be a way closer game than people think. So give me the Patriots 30-27 over the Giants. Alright, so that's going to be it for this week's episode of the podcast. I hope you guys all have a happy Thanksgiving. Please get out there, be safe, eat some turkey, watch some football, do whatever that you do. Enjoy time with family. And until I hear from you guys next, or you guys hear from me, remember, go Birds.